Please welcome to the stage Philibert Dugas and Alison Truong.
Hello, everyone. Are you excited for day 2 of Unite? My name is Philibert. I'm a development manager in the checkout team.
And I'm Alison, a product lead on the platform team.
We're here to tell you about new opportunities in checkout. More specifically, about our opening up the checkout for apps to be more integrated. We know that at Shopify, we can't build everything, and we rely on you, our partner community, to help address merchant needs that we don't. Checkout is a very important area for us that we haven't historically opened up to much customization. It's a critical part of a merchant's business, and anything that can potentially disrupt the buyer flow needs to be very thoughtfully implemented. We realize, however, that because checkout is a core aspect of a merchant's business, being able to tailor it to their specific needs has the potential to unlock additional business for them and increase conversion in sales. This is why we're opening up checkout for apps to be more integrated in a deliberate way.
So we're starting with allowing apps to extend into checkout for subscriptions. Many of our merchants, especially our Plus merchants, sell goods via subscriptions, and it's a business model that we want to support with the help of apps. A subscription is something that you buy that gets sent to you on a recurring basis. For example, I buy my toilet paper through a never-ending subscription because I never want to be in a situation where I'm out of toilet paper. I know that every month I get a new delivery that gets sent to me, which makes my life a lot easier. A lot of merchants sell their goods in this way and use apps to help them do so. We're excited to enable apps to provide this functionality to merchants while providing a seamless experience to buyers. To illustrate this, we'll start by walking through a step-by-step example of a buyer's experience of purchasing a subscription in checkout. Amin is in our store and he wants to buy some coffee. He can't really function without caffeine in the morning, which many of us can relate to. He doesn't want to have to come back every single month to buy it. He just wants it available to him when he's about to run out. So he decides to buy it as a subscription. As we could see from his cart, he also wants to buy a mug with his coffee, though the mug itself is not a part of a subscription. Amin decides that this is all he wants to buy and checks out. He's able to see that the coffee he's buying is a subscription item because he could see the relevant information being surfaced to him underneath the coffee in the checkout, as seen here. This information is being provided by an app. Amin enters in his customer information and proceeds to the shipping method step. He selects the shipping method and is ready to enter in his payment information. As you can see, the subscription information has been propagated throughout each step of the checkout. Everything looks good. Amin provides his payment details and completes his purchase. He sees a thank you page with all of his order details. He's able to see an area that provides some subscription information about his next expected delivery, as well as a link to his app to manage his subscription details. Since Shopify is enabling subscriptions with the help of apps, Amin will use this link to access additional information he wants to see about his subscription. That's it. Amin just purchased a coffee subscription and a mug. Now, how do we enable all of this in the back end? To enable subscriptions, there are several things that you'll need to do. There are a few existing building blocks that are leveraged in order to provide the buyer experience. These items are line item properties, script tags, and the checkout JavaScript API. There are also a few new integrations required to enable recurring payments, an app extension, a vaulting API, and the card fields SDK. We're going to walk you through all of them now. Line item properties will be used to display custom information to the buyer in checkout. You'll need to set this up in your product detail page. It's not mandatory to set up line item properties in order to enable subscriptions. However, if you do, you're presenting the buyer with relevant information that they need to know about when purchasing a subscription. This is important because we want the buyer to know exactly what they're buying and agreeing to. Line item properties are an existing concept that were built to collect additional custom product information from buyers. For example, when Aman bought his coffee subscription, on the product page, he selected that he wants to buy a monthly subscription for 1 year. Both the frequency and duration are set up as line item properties. This information now gets surfaced in the checkout underneath the product. To use this, you'll need to update the product page in your theme. In the product page, you could add the inputs for the buyer to select. In this case, frequency and duration as shown already. There are other pieces of subscription information that you may need to store in line item properties as well. We're going to walk you through the steps of how to set up line item properties for Aman's coffee subscription. First, the frequency and duration inputs are added to the HTML form, which should already be on the product page. This information will be propagated to the cart page as well. Next, your property's inputs should be set up with the corresponding values that a buyer can select. For duration, the values here are monthly, every 3 months, or every 6 months. When the form is submitted, the additional properties will be added to the product, capturing the buyer's selection. These properties can be displayed on the cart page and throughout the checkout process as we've shown. To complete the optimal buyer experience for the subscriptions use case, we also suggest modifying the thank you page using script tags and the Checkout JavaScript API. The Checkout JavaScript API was released a few years ago to allow apps the ability to add additional information to the thank you page, where script tags have been available for longer. Script tags allow apps to embed and load remote JavaScript files in different areas of the storefront without having to modify any theme files. For Aman's subscription, you could create a script tag with the order status scope. This will load your script on the thank you page of the checkout. Once you have your script on the thank you page, we can now use the Checkout JavaScript API. You could retrieve Aman's next shipment date details and the deep link into your app for him to manage his subscription from the line item properties that we've set up already. We didn't explicitly set up this info in our walkthrough just now, but this information, along with others that you might want to show at this step, should be set up in line item properties. However, this is up to you to decide. By using the Shopify Checkout JSON object, which is a part of the Checkout JavaScript API, along with script tags, displaying this information to the buyer becomes very easy. You could see an example code snippet here. Now that you have all the information you need, how do you actually show this on the thank you page? The thank you page is comprised of content boxes. Content boxes are essentially areas of the page that expose groupings of information. The beautiful map at the top of the page and the box at the bottom of the page with the customer information are examples of these content boxes. The box in the middle with the subscription details is the box that's relevant for us to modify here. This is fairly easy to implement using our Checkout JavaScript API. You could pass multiple strings to our add content box function call, and each one will render a separate row. In Aman's scenario, we've added 3 rows, a header, a short description, and a link along with a nice little icon for him to manage his subscription.
Now that we walked through the existing building blocks needed to create the buyer's experience, let's go into the 3 new items that are required to make recurring payments work. That's the app extension, the voting API, and the card field SDK. The app extension and the voting API enabled card voting. Card voting enables the secure storage of credit card numbers, which is a requirement for recurring payments to work. Before going into the details of each though, we're going to explain what card voting is and why it's important. Let's go back to Aman buying his coffee subscription without voting enabled. Aman is buying his coffee and sees all the details of the subscription in the checkout. He proceeds to the payment method page and enters his information. He completes the checkout, everything works as expected. Now, a month passes by, and the subscription app is ready to fulfill the next delivery of coffee. As the app is ready to create another order through Shopify's API, they realize that they have no access to Aman's payment method. Because of this, they have to send a notification to Aman asking him to re-enter his payment information. This process has to be repeated every time an order is due. In Aman's case, every month. Not what Aman expected when he bought a coffee subscription. Card vaulting is key to fix this scenario. It allows Shopify to encrypt and store the buyer payment information in our PCI compliant servers. We're now able to charge Aman's credit card every time a delivery is due without having to ask him for payment information. Back to Aman Coffee. This time, we have vaulting enabled. Aman is on the last step of checkout and ready to enter his payment information. This checkout was modified beforehand with a vaulting request. We will make sure Aman is aware of this, and he will need to agree to have his credit card information saved for this recurring payment. Once Aman completes the checkout, the information is safely stored, and a unique payment token is generated. This token is then sent from Shopify to the app, which created the vaulting request. So how do you enable card vaulting for recurring payments? The first thing you need to do is to set up the new checkout app extension in your partner's dashboard. This app extension will tell Shopify that card vaulting is required when a particular variant is sold. A subscription will be configured as a variant on a product. You'll also need to specify the metafield namespace and key. The presence of those metafield will indicate that you require card vaulting for this variant. This app extension serves as a signal to initiate the card vaulting process. Card vaulting happens in the last step of checkout when Aman entered his payment information. At this moment, Shopify generates a unique payment token which is associated with these payment details. This token is sent from Shopify to the app using an HTTP request. We will send you a webhook every time a new subscription order is created. After you configure the app extension, you're ready to use the vaulting APIs. The unique payment token that was generated in the last step of checkout and sent to the app via a webhook will allow the app to create recurring transactions seamlessly without having to prompt a buyer for payment information. It also allows the app to create recurring payment without the burden of PCI compliance. This token will only work for the app that requested it, and on the shop it was generated. Now that you receive the payment token, you have all the pieces you need to fulfill the subscription. Using the Checkout API, you'll be able to create a checkout every month for Aman. Let's go through how this works for the coffee subscription. Using the admin's checkout endpoint, the app will create Aman's next order of coffee. It will send all the known information for this subscription, such as coffee variant ID, the quantity, Aman's shipping address, and more. When the checkout resource is created, then the app can create a payment for this order, leveraging the admin payments endpoint. To do this, simply send over the payment token, which you received earlier, and the amount to be charged. When the full amount for the coffee is paid for, then the order is automatically generated in Shopify's backend. Now you're ready to run a subscriptions business and support recurring payment. Simply repeat this process every time an order is due. We know, however, that a subscription business is not something that simple. It's not enough to just process recurring payments. Aman might cancel his subscription or update his credit card. The CardFeel SDK was created to capture changes to a buyer's credit card. We expect the app to handle the payment token with a credit card number changes. To help you with this, we'll give you the ability to update an existing payment token. This can get tricky. Capturing credit card number is something that should be done carefully and securely. The CardFeel SDK will help you render a secure credit card form, which you can embed in your buyer's portal. Its primary function will be to vault a credit card and return a session ID. To do this, you can attach an event handler when your credit card form is submitted. In this handler, you'll want to call the vault card function of our SDK. This will return you a promise. This promise will resolve with a session ID, which can then be used to update the payment token. This session ID, you can leverage it in our update action of the vaulting endpoint. You'll need to send both the new session ID and the existing token. We also ask you for an amount that you intend to charge. This is required to reduce the likelihood of a strong customer authentication on charges. It does not have to be the final amount though. One property of this payment token is that it will never change. And so when you update it with a session ID, you can expect a success response, but there's no new value to store. The details of the CardFeel SDK and the vaulting APIs are not final. We have a bunch of ideas like providing multiple styling options for the CardFeel form. We'd love to hear your suggestions though. We hope this will make it easier for you guys to manage the payment token throughout the buyer's journey.
So we've given you a lot of information today. We're very excited at taking the first steps at having partners help us make checkout better for merchants through apps, starting with subscriptions. For subscriptions, you'll need to use line item properties, script tags, and the checkout JavaScript API to create the buyer experience. On top of that, you'll build a new app extension and integrate with the new vaulting API and CardFeel's SDK to enable card vaulting and recurring payments. We're working closely with our existing partners to get the implementation of this right. So far, we've had the furthest conversations with Recharge and Bold. We want to stress that what we've talked about today is only the beginning for allowing apps to extend into checkout. We're planning to do more, and the next thing that we're going to tackle is upsell. We're so excited to see what you're going to enable for merchants. If you want to learn more about everything that we talked about today, please come find us. We'd love to chat. Thank you. And I think we have a little bit of time to take some questions, but I know that we ran a little bit over time. Philibert and I will both be in the developer drop-in zone after this talk, though, to answer any more questions if we're not able to get through a lot of them here. Okay. Where do you want it?
Whatever, click on one.
Okay.
Or just read it out, I guess.
Sorry, don't really know how to use this interface very well. It wasn't in the for review, right? Oh. There we go. Apologies. Okay. Is it possible to do post-checkout upsell natively? Not at the moment.
Not right now, but once we start exploring it and working on it, then we'll share all the details we have. Yeah.
A user clicks manage subscriptions. Now what? By Anonymous.
So the subscription management is still something that we expect the app to do. Shopify is building building blocks for apps to then build on top of this. So any subscription management should be done by the app.
Yeah. What if your clients can't use Shopify payments? So we're starting with Shopify payments, but we're going to be evaluating other payment methods shortly afterwards. So stay tuned for those details. What will happen to external checkouts like Recharge and Bold recurring orders? Will they still be allowed? If not, what is the timeline? So with subscriptions, these particular types of external checkouts will no longer be supported on Shopify. This is something that we're planning on releasing sometime this year.
Will additional checkout buttons be blocked automatically at checkout if a subscription product is in the cart, or will they be compatible? So for wallets integration like Apple Pay, Google Pay, and so on, this is not what we'll release in the first iteration of this, but we'll add it afterwards.
How many products can be in the subscription? I mean, that's up to you to decide. Can we charge transaction fees with subscription charge?
It's possible. When you build your app, you're allowed to do whichever business model you want. So we have APIs such as the usage charge API if you want to add usage fee to transactions.
What other use cases are on the roadmap for app extensions and checkout? So we're still evaluating those options, but this is something that we do based on merchant demand and need, and you'll have those details as soon as we know. Wait, sorry, we can. So a lot of these questions are about gateways, which I think that we already answered. So we're just trying to scroll through and find other questions.
You're showing REST-style API calls in the example. I'm assuming this will move to GraphQL going forward. Very good point. Yes, we want to move everything we can to GraphQL. The checkout API is built in REST, and so that's a significant effort to rewrite, but we'll be moving to GraphQL.
Will a recurring order be able to recalculate shipping rates to get the most current ones?
Yes, the checkout API allows you to recalculate shipping rates every time you call it. And so if you want to change shipping rates on our recurring orders, then you can do it through the checkout API.
Can we add custom JavaScript tags on the checkout page?
Right now, you can only do it on the thank you page, and so not on the whole steps of checkout.
Mm-hmm. Will checkout apps be available for cannabis merchants on Plus?
Good question. I don't know about that.
Please talk to somebody from the Plus team. Okay. How can we let merchants preview our injected content boxes on thank you page without making an actual purchase?
That's a good question. How can we let preview? I believe we don't have any preview functionality for checkout right now. It's a great idea if you want to come talk to me after in the developer drop-in.
Will Liquid be available in checkout extensions? And will upsells be one-click upsells?
That's a good question. So for this extension, it's a signal to initiate card voting, so you don't need to actually use Liquid. Once we start building for cases like upsell, and we want to modify the checkout user experience more, then Liquid is a good option that we can consider.
Yeah, and then for upsells, we're still exploring that, so we don't have those details yet. Okay. When will the edit order API be available? When will the subscription API be available? So for ours, we're targeting this year. Order edit API, we don't know. You'll have to speak with the order editing team.
Yeah. We can take one or two more questions?
Yes, we'll take one or two more.
How long can we vote the credit card information? So that's still to be determined. So Shopify is responsible for voting it, and from my knowledge of it, depending of the country and the states where it's voting, there's different rules. And so we'll need to document all of this and share it with you guys.
Launch date, is there a dev preview? So as mentioned, we're going to be launching sometime this year, and we could consider putting in a dev preview for that when it's available. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. As mentioned, if you want to chat with us more, we're going to be at the developer drop-in zone right now.
Yep.